Hey everyone, what's going on? Jeff here from Films at Home, and I've got another 4K review to do for you. We are diving back into the Universal Classic Monsters set, and we're going to be taking a look at Frankenstein in this 4K review. So this is a continuing series of reviews. I previously covered Dracula from this same set, and that one is available on my channel, so if you're interested, go check that out. But today we're doing Frankenstein, which came out about 9 months after Dracula in the same year, 1931. So this is the 90th anniversary of the movie, and Universal has released it on 4K for the first time in celebration of that anniversary. So we're going to dive into the video quality here and talk about HDR and how the 4K restoration looks on this 4K disc, cover some of the audio elements and what you can expect from that, and also the packaging and special features, and ultimately whether or not this one's worth picking up for your collection. So diving right into the video review for this 4K release, much like Dracula, Frankenstein was also restored back in 2012 for Universal's 100th anniversary, and they also restored The Invisible Man, The Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Bride of Frankenstein, and a handful of others for a Blu-ray set that came out. So this is a 4K scan, but we're now getting it for the first time on the 4K disc. So the previous Blu-ray release of this was a 4K scan that had to be downscaled to 1080p for Blu-ray, and it didn't contain any HDR color grading because that's not available in the Blu-ray format. So those are the two benefits of moving to 4K, and they're both on full display here. Much like Dracula, the Blu-ray release of Frankenstein looks a little washed out, and the whites and the bright it's too much. The brightness is too high. That didn't balance well with the blacks, and it kind of creates a muddy, more gray and white image than a black and white image. There aren't many true blacks, and that's just a limitation of the color grading that you can get on Blu-ray versus HDR color grading, which is available on the 4K disc. But you'll immediately notice, again, much like Dracula, that it is a much darker presentation of the movie, but I like it so much better. It fits the tone of the movie. Blacks are black, whites are white, and there is a lot more depth to the image as well. That's one thing I really noticed here. So when I say depth, I mean that there isn't just kind of this one grayscale image. When there's something very dark, there's a slightly lighter gray in front of it, and then the flames on, say, a torch are very bright white, but they have great little black and gray elements throughout it, and you don't just get this kind of flat image that you were getting on the Blu-ray. There's much more depth, there's a lot more color, and there's a much larger scale between black and white and all the gray scale in between than what you could get on the Blu-ray. So I really loved the way that this presented itself. Although I will say, I thought the Blu-ray release of Frankenstein was a stronger disc than Dracula. There wasn't as much flickering on the Frankenstein Blu-ray, and there wasn't as much of a distracting kind of noise in some scenes. And so the 4K disc actually looks as good, if not better, than Dracula in many cases. I thought it was a really clean disc, and even though they're only 9 months apart, maybe the filmmakers back then really learned something or had a little bit more budget to work with after the success of Dracula, and I think the source here might have been a little bit better. So Frankenstein really it's a standout here on 4K. It is another massive upgrade over an already very solid Blu-ray. I mean, these movies, I remember watching them on like VHS or seeing like TV versions of them on AMC, maybe during AMC's Fear Fest, back in the day. They looked so bad, like appallingly bad, because it's really hard to get a 70, 80, now 90-year-old print and turn it into something good. Universal spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on these restorations in 2012, and it really shows. These are some of the nicest black and white movies I've seen, and Frankenstein definitely holds its own right up there with Dracula, and maybe even surpasses it in some cases. Now the 4K image here, having a native 4K scan on a 4K disc, also does increase the level of detail. The grain is much more structured. It's a little bit smoother in some areas, or cleaner, sharper, and it's a little bit more well structured and consistent again than what you could get on the Blu-ray disc. So that's always a great improvement. But once again, much like Dracula, the HDR is the real standout for me, and that's what really made a difference. Although the extra detail is great, the Blu-ray had a lot of that, but man, does it make a huge difference when you can open up that colorscape. Now the audio in this does retain the same audio from the Blu-ray, which again is a DTS HD Master Audio 2.0 mono track. Very, very good track. Clearly has been restored and was restored at the same time as the image. You still hear a little bit of that low hiss that these older movies have, but it's much less noticeable, I thought, than Dracula. So as these movies, I'll be interested to see what happens with Invisible Man and Wolfman as they get, you know, newer, they're all 85, 90 years old, but as they get further down the line and progress further, I'm wondering if maybe the sources got better, they were preserved a little bit better, there was maybe some more to work with, because I did see significant improvements in just that low hiss and being able to manage that craziness of a soundtrack from 90 years ago and all the different hisses and pops and crackles and things that go into it. I thought it was a lot cleaner on Frankenstein than on Dracula. It's a very solid track. I mean, it's never sounded as good. The dialogue is clear. You can actually make out what people are saying, and the score sounds great. And you know, some of these older VHS, DVD even releases of this movie, even going back to the days of like Laserdisc, I mean, sometimes you could barely make out what people were saying. The sound quality was so poor, and it was just so old, and they really did a great job restoring it. So same as on the Blu-ray, but just know that it carries over that same quality audio to the 4K disc here. Now, packaging I'll run through quick. This is the Universal horror icons set, so it has those 4 movies, and that's what I have in my collection. Frankenstein again is in this little digibook, and it has these slips, so no like hard cases, no like place to click the disc in and let it sit. You have to kind of pull them from the side and rip them out of these little sleeves, which again I hate. And I mention this because the first time I watched the Frankenstein 4K disc, I got about 42 minutes in, 42 to 48 minutes, and it started skipping, and I'm like, oh, okay, is this an issue with the disc? Is something going on here? Was it a bad master? What happened? Take it out, you know, rub it off, clean it up a little bit. I had some fingerprints on it from pulling it out of the sleeve, put it back in, it played fine. So 4K discs are notoriously like picky about how clean they are, even more so than Blu-ray. A single thumbprint or a scratch can really throw a disc off on 4K. There's just more data to mess with on the same size disc, and so that's why I love the 4K discs to be in their own case, because then you don't have that happen by getting fingerprints or scratches on it, because it really can make a difference. One fingerprint can make a movie skip like that on 4K. So now the special features, these are mostly retained over from the last Blu-ray, but they are available on the 4K disc, which was nice. It's the Frankenstein files about how Hollywood made a monster. There's a behind the scenes on Boris Karloff, monster tracks again, Universal Horror, Frankenstein Archives, Boo, a short film, couple of feature commentaries with film historians, and then 100 years of Universal restoring the classics, which I thought was actually very interesting and dives into the restoration of this a little bit. So that's what you get in this box set. But Best Buy also has a steelbook available, and I totally slipped my mind. I forgot that even came out during my Dracula review. So it should be noted that this is not the only way to buy these. If you did want to buy them individually, you can grab all 4 of these on 4K, but you do have to pay for the Best Buy Steelbook, which is going to run you $28 a piece versus this whole set for $65. So it's a much more expensive endeavor, but you can buy them individually, and they have some kind of cool artwork on the Steelbooks if you're a Steelbook collector. So overall, this is another great release and great transfer from Universal, which I'm so happy, because I was so down on Universal after I watched Inglourious Basterds on 4K, and I was like, oh God, please, like, don't give me terrible discs for these iconic movies. And luckily they didn't. Even though these restorations are now almost 10 years old themselves, the fact that they scanned them at 4K back then and had the foresight to do that, and now we're releasing them on disc, it's great work from Universal, and it's really, really cool to see these types of movies come to 4K, because it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this type of restoration, and they certainly didn't have to do it. They may not even make their money back on it, we'll see, but it's just awesome to have in your collection. And again, if you're a horror fan, a film historian, a film lover, classic movie, black and white movie lover, you need Frankenstein, you need Dracula, you need all these movies in your collection. But right now, the best way to buy them is on 4K. They look and still sound fantastic. So I will leave a link to this set down in the description, an Amazon link, and if you use that, that helps support my channel. You get a small kickback from those purchases, so I really appreciate it. It goes a long way helping me buy new releases, buy new equipment, all that good stuff. So I appreciate your support there. Otherwise, make sure you follow me on social media. All the links are down in my description, as well as other links and ways you can help support my channel passively through a few different promotions. So I really appreciate all the support. Make sure you're subscribed and like this video so others will see it, and so you can stay up to date on the latest videos from my channel, and I really appreciate that. So thanks again for watching. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and stay healthy out there. Enjoy this Halloween season. We got such great movies like this coming out on 4K this October. It is an exciting time to be a 4K fan. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon.